Welcome to The Pivot Place. I'm your host, Victoria Coit, strategist, pivot advocate, and believer that your next breakthrough is just one shift away. Here, we dive into bold conversations with leaders, creatives, and changemakers, exploring the moments that redefine careers, businesses, and lives. Let's get into it. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Seth Marcel, a multifaceted artist and entrepreneur hailing from Syracuse, New York. Seth's journey began as a club DJ and on the college circuit, where he honed his musical talents and developed a deep passion for hip-hop. Transitioning from the turntables to the microphone, he emerged as a compelling rapper and producer, collaborating with notable artists and contributing significantly to the local music scene and beyond. Beyond his musical endeavors, Seth has demonstrated a keen entrepreneurial spirit, engaging in street promotions for major labels and exploring various facets of the music industry. His dynamic career reflects a relentless dedication to his craft and his community. Welcome, Seth.
Thank you. That's a better bio than my publicist wrote.
Well, see.
Ever.
That's why you should have hired me.
Ever.
Not ever.
Ever.
Okay. There you go. Okay, so your name is Seth Bradford, right?
Yeah.
That's the name your mama gave you.
That's the name my mama gave me.
But on the stage, you are Seth Marcel.
Yeah. Marcel's my middle name.
Marcel's your middle name?
Yeah, Marcel's my middle name.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy that you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Let me take my jacket off.
Okay, take it off. Do what you gotta do.
One of those.
Okay. You have a new project coming out that we're going to talk about.
Are we?
We are.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about
And you also are well known in the Syracuse community, well known and beyond, like I said. So off that name recognition, what are some things that folks don't know about Seth Bradford?
Oh my gosh. How long is this podcast?
It's
There's a lot of stuff that people don't know about me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen to my music,
Mm-hmm.
it's in there.
Okay.
But, just on the surface, if you're not a part of my circle, there's like a lot of quirky things that you wouldn't know about me. Like I never wear socks that match.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You weren't expecting that?
And why is that?
I don't know. Just as long as they're clean when they come out of the wash. Who's got time?
So you don't like
match?
to conform to
Who's got time to match up the socks?
Okay.
If they're two black socks, one happens to be an and one, the other one's a Jeffrey Bean. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just put the socks on.
All right. How about anything that is relevant? Sorry, no.
I told you I'm going to message you today.
I see.
No, I think people who know me, they know about my love of community. They know about, my love of my people, my commitment to uplifting my people, mentally, spiritually. I just trying to be a pillar of encouragement. And people who know me, like, that's probably what sticks out most.
Okay. I'm going to ask you where that came from, but also we are fellow Aries.
Yeah.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
And that is just something that is in us. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's just in us too. Who knows? But I know that it's in us.
Yeah.
So where did that come from in you of just understanding the power of community and then also that innate love for your people and wanting to see the best, the absolute best for them?
Well, for me, it was probably because I'm an only child, right? So growing up with an absence of community in my house, just being my mom and my grandma, my aunt who raised me, but not having siblings around to create, the immediate family dynamic of community always made me reach outside of my house for connection. Friendships, kinships, and things like that. And so I just think as a child growing up without that and being aware of it, growing into an adolescent and an adult, you realize the value of it. You realize the necessity of it. Because, as humans, we're all communal people.
Right.
Innately, we want and we have this natural desire to belong and to be a part of something. And so not having that growing up and having to go out and seek it, and then ultimately being able, luckily, to find it and learn how to, live within it and navigate inside of it it did a lot for me growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your first experience of community?
Wow. When I was about 7 years old, we moved to California, my mom and I. We were in California for about 2 years.
What part?
Sacramento and Alameda and Oakland.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ooh,
we
Oakland.
bounced 3 times in like 2 years. And when we came back to Syracuse, when we moved, I had my earliest childhood friends, but we were 4, 5, 6 years old. So a lot can happen in those 2 years. So when you come back, that 6-year-old that you used to play with that was nice to you is not always the same person when you come back. Not to mention we moved to a whole different side of town when we moved back from California. And I was welcomed into this neighborhood by a group of kids who already lived in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And they immediately welcomed me in. And all of those same guys are still my friends to this day.
Wow.
All of them. Every single one of them.
Okay.
We've been friends well over 45 years. And so that, in my memory, I would say that would be my first exposure to what community felt like, being a part of it.
If you had to use some adjectives to describe that feeling of community.
Goodness. Oh, man. Connectivity, safety, acceptance, inclusion. Now that we're at that point in history where, diversity, equity, and inclusion is becoming a hot button topic. Like just the thought of being included is definitely on that list.
Yeah. You're currently, I mentioned that you're an entrepreneur, right? You own a barbershop and you've owned barbershops over the years.
Yeah.
But you're also an entrepreneur when it comes to the music business, right? And so we have the talent side and then we have the business side.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't talk about the business side. What would you say are some transferable things? Like, first of all, how did you start cutting hair?
Wow. So these things are both connected. It's hard to say which one came first. Was it the chicken or the egg, right? Was it the music or the barbering? Thinking about it in hindsight, being 2020, I would say that the music came first because I always dabbled with music. I grew up in a musical household. But my interest in it didn't come about until I discovered hip hop.
Okay.
And the first time I heard Busy B and Kool Mo D battle live, it was a mixtape that my uncle had, and I heard it, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but what it's doing to me, what is like stirring inside of me, I want to know all about that. And I started collecting records. Well, I also started cutting hair to pay for my new record habit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so funny story. So my mom would give me money every Thursday to get my hair cut after school on Friday.
Okay.
So the mission was go to school, on your way home from school, stop at the barbershop, get your hair cut, come home. Well, it just so happens there was a record store right next to the barbershop.
Okay.
And so the first couple times, I just took my haircut money and I bought records. And my mother was like, all right, you the one got to walk around looking crazy until next week. Like, it's on you. Those are your choices. So the following Thursday, she gives me money. She says, now when I come home tomorrow from work, you're going to need to have a haircut. So I'm like, okay. Come on, man. You know what I did.
Yourself.
You know what I did. I went right to the record store and bought records. And I went home. And our neighbor, this guy named Gary, he was in the military. He used to cut his own hair. He used to give himself a buzz cut. So I knocked on his door and I said, Gary, can I borrow your clippers? And he was like, yeah, sure. Took me about 3 hours to cut my hair. My mom came in, she was none the wiser. And I was like, it's on and popping. It's on. And so every week after that, I would do the same thing.
Okay.
I'd buy records. I'd borrow his clippers. I'd cut my hair.
So you were still taking your mama's money?
I was still taking my mama's money. I'm sorry, mama. But she knows this story now. She's heard this story before. She knows now. But he got deployed, and he was like, I'm going to leave my tools with you because they're not going to do me any good where I'm going.
Oh, wow.
And I started doing myself and all of my friends and all of the kids in the neighborhood. Interestingly enough, the barbershop that I used to go to was owned by the father of a guy who is a client of mine now. And they came to my house and they knocked on my door and they said, you're impacting our business. Why don't you come to the barbershop so we can teach you how to do this as a career? And I've been doing both ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you're collecting your mom's money for records.
Why you gotta say it like that?
That's what you were doing. Let's call a spade a spade. And you have this growing record collection, but you're also making your own money on the side now. So
I was a young entrepreneur, early.
About what age was this?
I was 13 and a half, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that same spirit that's stirring inside of you when you heard hip hop and now you are growing inside of it and honing your craft. What was your first name?
My first rap name?
Your first rap name.
My first rap name was B Love.
B Love.
B Love.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was in a group called GBC, the Get Busy Crew.
I thought you were going to say the B Lovers.
No, the Get Busy Crew with my friend to this day, Kenyon Black. He was AKA Kazzy B.
Oh, shout out Kenyon.
Yeah, Kenyon. And another longtime friend of mine, Sean Goodman, MC Sean G.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the Get Busy Crew.
Okay.
And I was B Love.
Okay. And you guys are doing some shows. Your name starts popping around the city, things of that nature. When did you transition into saying Seth Marcel? And what did that, we're talking about pivots, right? Because this is the pivot place. And so from B Love to Seth Marcel, what did that transition look like?
There were a few pivots, and, they were really born out of necessity.
Okay.
Right? So we didn't know who was going to play what role in the Get Busy Crew. Kenyon was like, I'm going to rap. Sean was like, I'm going to rap. And I was like, well, we don't need 3 rappers. I was like, well, I like music, so I guess I'll be the DJ. Okay. And my mom invested in my first pair of makeshift turntables. And we were doing some shows and we were doing some things. And then as I began to take it more seriously, she saw that I was taking it more seriously. And she was like, if you're going to invest the time, I'll invest the money. So she went out and bought me a professional pair of turntables. Okay. Took all of her tax return. I'll never forget it. Took all of her tax return, took a 2-hour drive to a small place called Boynton, New York. And she bought me my very first set of Technique 1200s. And I really got into DJing then. But the pivot came after perfecting or working on my DJ craft, like honing my skills as a DJ. I got to a point where not only did I want to spin the music, but I wanted to understand how the music I was spinning was made. So that pivot took me into being a producer. So I started, learning how to produce, learning how to make beats, how to make music. And another pivot happened. Okay. I began to be a local producer for all of these different MCs that were in the area who didn't have original music. Okay. And another pivot happens.
You pivoting all over the place,
right.
Huh?
This is how it has just like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So what happens is, I'm making music for all of these MCs, but I'm really one of the only ones who's really taking it seriously. So when they stopped coming around to get the music, I was like, well, I got all these beats here. What am I going to do with them? I said, well, I've seen what they can do. Like, I'm a good student. I'm kind of smart. Yeah. Right? I can write. I can rhyme. And the next thing you know, I transitioned from DJ to producer to MC. And fortunately for me, it helped me be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Because I could do all of these things on my own now. You know, I didn't have to wait around for a producer to make a beat. I didn't have to wait around for a DJ to come do the scratches. I didn't have to wait around for the MC to come lay the verses. I was able to do all that on my own. Yeah. So those pivots, you know, put me where I'm at now.
Okay. So do you remember where we first met?
I have no clue. I have no clue.
I was thinking
for like $1 million, I would not be able to answer that question.
So we didn't actually meet. I think I just knew you as like a rapper around town, and I was 12 years old, and I had a job. I got with this organization that would place you around town just to sort of like a student working situation. Okay. And so they placed me at Deb's Beeper World.
Deb's Beeper World.
Right?
Wow.
They placed me at 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
And this was Deb's was popping.
Deb's was hot.
Fried chicken, steak, subs, beepers, whatever you needed, right? And used to come in pretty frequently and get 6 strawberry blunts.
You want to know what's funny?
And they had me selling them at 12,
funny
right?
Story. I was in a group called Mad Pack.
Uh-huh.
There were 6 of us and 1 DJ. There were 7. Mm-hmm. I would always go buy the blunts. I never smoked.
So that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You used to get like 6 to 10.
I would always
And
buy.
You had dreads.
Yep, I had.
And not a lot of people had dreads at that time.
Yep.
And it used to be very jovial.
I would always go on the blunt run because if I let them go, they'd never come back.
Oh, okay.
I knew. I was like, if I let these guys go, they're not going to be back in time. So I would always make the run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. That's funny. Wow. You're working at Dev's when you're 12 years old. That's got to violate some child labor laws.
All of them. All of them. I mean, but that tracks for Dev's, right?
Yeah.
So that caught me off guard. Or that let's transition into your music. And your producing. Yeah. We have a mutual friend, Jerome, and he always says that you are the best producer. Why does he say that you are the best producer in music?
You know what? Perhaps because he saw me take nothing and make something. Like Jerome owned the record label that put out my very first record.
Wow.
He owned Visions on Audio, VOA Records. And they put out the first record that I ever produced with, God bless her, Vanessa Brooks, a.k.a. V-Nice. And we were able to make this record on a 4-track recorder with no computer, no 2-inch tape, none of the fancy stuff, you know, back then that you needed to really make records. But we made these 2 songs and they caught fire all up and down Central New York, all through New York State, Pennsylvania. Like, they were like big records. And, you know, the way that they came about, very unlikely. Like, I mean, borderline basic equipment. Like, you know, so maybe him having the opportunity to see me create something from absolutely nothing might give him that skewed viewpoint. But
who says it's skewed?
It's slightly skewed because he's like a brother, right? He's like a brother. So when he looks at me, he sees the effort, but he also sees the amalgamation of the young kid who was interested to this guy who is now a meticulous orchestrator of sound. So that very well could be. I mean, if you had an opportunity to see Van Gogh go from crayons to oil paint, you'd be like, that's why he's that guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you only met him at oil paint, you'd be like, yo, he's nice. It's different, you know, when you can see the entire transition. So
yeah, and Jerome is in the studio today, and I did not know that he had he's man of many hats.
Yes.
A whole record label. Jerome,
Yeah.
We got to come back and talk about your record label. But wow, that's a good segue into your new project, right? You have, people can find you streaming on all streaming platforms, and you have so much music out there and projects out there, and really laid a foundation for a lot of artists today that are like, whoa, Seth Marcel, they look up to you. You are that dude, right? And so in knowing that, what does a project? Jerome also says something else too. We should have had him over here.
Should have had him.
I'm sorry. Right? He also says that this is your songs in the key of life, your masterpiece.
See, I don't. Well, that's his opinion. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because I think my masterpiece is actually a project that I did 4 years ago called Masterpiece, Peace, which in my opinion is bar none, like, it's my best work.
Okay.
In terms of like writing, production, just the way the entire project came together. But this new project is called I Am I Be, and it's a 2-part album, and it's really about telling people all of those things about me that they don't know, like the first question that you asked. So I don't know if it's my songs in the key of life. It very well could be, though. It's arguable.
Okay.
It's arguable.
Okay. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
When can we expect
February 28th, midnight. February 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that?
It's the last day of Black History Month. So we're going to put the period on the Black History that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. So Masterpiece, you say, is your personal festive favorite.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
A lot of people probably don't know, too, that a lot of your music can be found like on HBO and different places. Like, expound on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been very fortunate musically. I've had what I like to call a Forrest Gump career. So anybody who's seen the movie Forrest Gump knows that Forrest was always in the right place at the right time when something happened. He didn't have to do much. He didn't have to exert much effort. He just happened to be there and was prepared. And a lot of my career has been like that. I've just been very fortunate to be in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time, around the right people. And all of the dominoes have just fallen properly. So, I'm very fortunate to still be making music at my age and still be doing it well. Yeah, I think, and being competitive in the lane that I'm in. Like, I'm not in everybody's lane. I'm in a specific place. If you're looking for a specific type of music, and I'm that guy for that.
What would that music be called?
I don't necessarily know if it has a direct name, but I think my music is more about what it makes you feel. So it's hard to label it like that. Okay. But it's the kind of music that it makes you sonically makes you remember when you were younger. Okay. Because I really tap into a lot of the music that I grew up on, a lot of 70s soul and funk and just stuff that felt more musical, not just so much a kick and a snare and a fast hi-hat, but stuff that even if you take my voice off of it and you just let it play, you can still zone out to it. Okay. I think that my music is socially conscious. I think that it pokes the bear intentionally. I think that I go out of my way to express my Blackness in an unapologetic way. Okay. And again, going back to your earlier statement, that's a part of my contribution to my community. So I don't necessarily know what it will be called. I just know it. I just know what it makes people feel. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I want to follow up this interview after February 28th.
That would be dope.
I want to listen to some of these tracks And really,
I'm gonna give you a preview. I'm gonna send you the album.
Okay,
I'm gonna
great.
send it to you so you can have it ahead of time before it even drops. You only have to wait for it.
Perfect. Yeah. And I want to discuss this, as Jerome says, Songs of the Key of Life. What's it called?
That. It's called I Am.
I Be. Okay, yes. And to that point, share with us your favorite quote, whether it's your own lyrics or something that inspires or keeps you going on a daily basis.
There are.
And we're going to come back with part 2 with Seth Bradford.
There are so many. Mm-hmm. But 3 of my favorites would probably be, and I use these when I make music, but James Allen, 1916, as a man thinketh, so he becomes. Mm-hmm. Right? That's one. He who controls the media controls the people. It's Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. And third would probably be a new line of mine on this new album. It says, if you're hanging on by a thread, you better learn how to sew.
That one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Seth Bradford, a.k.a. Seth
AKA
Marcel.
Seth Marcel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vic.
Take care.
You too.
Yeah.